The challenge of teaching people. This can create challenges when you're training people. Sometimes I can see a solution so clearly that I genuinely struggle to understand why someone else isn't seeing it. I might explain it once, then explain it another way, then another, then another. I might explain it 10 different ways. In my head, it's incredibly straightforward, but to them, it's like I've just performed magic. I've had situations where I've shown somebody how to do something, and they've looked at me as though I've skipped 5 steps in the middle. Meanwhile, from my perspective, I've explained every step. The reality is that I've probably missed several steps without realizing it because my brain connected the dots automatically. What seems obvious to me isn't always obvious to someone else. I think this happens because dyslexic people often develop unusual ways of solving problems. We're used to finding workarounds, we're used to finding different routes. We're used to looking at things from angles that other people might not naturally consider. The downside is that when you've made those connections in your own head, it can be difficult to explain how you got there. It's a bit like showing somebody the answer to a puzzle without showing them how you solved it. You know exactly how you arrived at the answer, but the route happened so quickly in your head that you struggle to break it down into individual steps. I've noticed this particularly when it comes to technology, processes, and problem solving. Sometimes I'll look at a process with 10 steps and immediately see a way of doing it in 3. To me, that feels perfectly logical. To somebody else, it can feel like I've jumped from the beginning straight to the end. The route that seems easiest to me isn't always the route that seems easiest to someone else. I've even had situations where someone has shown me a complicated method for doing something, and I genuinely can't understand why they're making it so difficult. Then a few minutes later, they're looking at my method, wondering how on earth I got there. Neither of us is wrong, we're just approaching the same problem from different directions. I think that's one of the biggest lessons dyslexia has taught me. Just because something makes perfect sense to me doesn't mean it makes sense to everyone else. And equally, just because I don't immediately understand someone else's approach doesn't mean it's wrong either. We all process information differently. Sometimes when I'm training someone, I have to stop and think, how did I actually get to that answer? Because in my head, I've already made several jumps without even realizing it. Once I break those jumps down into smaller pieces, suddenly the other person understands. Understanding that has made me a much more patient teacher, well, most of the time. I'll be honest, there are still occasions where somebody doesn't see what feels blindingly obvious to me, and I have to remind myself that there are plenty of things they find obvious that I struggle with. That's just the reality of having different brains. And actually, that's probably a good thing. If everybody thought exactly the same way, we'd all come up with the same answers. Sometimes the best ideas come from people seeing the world differently. And if there's one thing dyslexic people tend to be good at, it's seeing things differently. Well, most of the time.